All right, ladies and gentlemen, Moyen, welcome to you all. We're delighted to have you here this evening at the artist talk. I should I should begin to say how delighted we are with the presence of Erwin Olaf, um, who is one half of the artists,
Ja.
plural. The other half, unfortunately, Hans Op de Beeck, has fallen ill and cannot be with us today. But fortunately, we have recorded um, a number of statements from Hans on the subjects that we will be discussing in this artist talk uh, live with Erwin, and I'll try to convey the thoughts of Hans on the subjects that we will discuss. Again, a huge privilege to have you here and to collaborate on this project. Erwin Olaf and Hans Op de Beeck, inspired by Steichen, which began, I would say, about a year and a half ago, I think,
I think
when
so,
we
yeah.
first were discussing um, the concept of the proposal of for this exhibition, which has been so generously and enthusiastically supported by Mr. Polfer, who thought it was a great idea, and we were able to actually do it. And I'm happy that it came out the way it did. The idea was actually to see how the artistic heritage of Steichen compared to the work of both you and the work of Hans, and to create an interesting dialogue between the works that were selected. And one of the first things people can see behind our backs too is that it's monochrome. It's a world in black and white.
Black and white, yeah.
Of course, you make color photographs as well, but the works that we selected for this exhibition are in black and white. And I actually wanted to start off asking you, um, is there a specific reason or a specific idea behind you choosing the black and white for the series in Wald?
Yes, that's it. When I got the idea for Imwald, which I made in the south of Germany and in Austria, 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Immediately I had the idea it has to be in black and white. Also going back, when I started out in the end of the 70s with photography, there was only black and white. So, and I really love black and white, especially the craftsmanship. If you are in the dark room to print the smaller ones, and also that you reduce. It's a kind of surreal.
Uh-huh.
The world is translated into black, white, and gray. So that's it. And you go back to the essence, and you reduce. Let's say it's a surreal thing, but you reduce everything to the essence.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So to you, it's more to the point for this specific
for
subject.
this, for nature, because
Yeah.
green. Now, yeah, not this color green. I'm sorry for the. I see a lot of red, so I
Yeah.
feel a little bit displaced
Yeah.
here. I didn't know that Luxembourg was so socialistic. But now with green, we always associate with happiness and
Yeah.
beauty and peace. The color green is, that's nature. And when I had the idea, sitting in a car, in the back of a car, they showed me around in this, and then I thought, if I'm going to do it, no green, no color, no sunshine.
Okay.
Because that is too happy for the story I wanted to tell.
We will get back to that story because
Yeah.
it's important for this series. I think I just at this point then perhaps will read out what Hans's answer to this specific question was asked why he worked in black and white, because his watercolor drawings or paintings are also black and white, which is somewhat unusual for aquarelle, because it's associated with summer, with bright colors, but in his case, it's really not. So Hans says, as a visual artist, I don't feel I need to make use of the full color reality. Just because we see color doesn't mean we have to reproduce it. By reducing color, you go to the essence of light. In my monochromatic watercolors, for example, the white paper is the source of light. So if I overwork the painting, I kill the light. In Erwin's photographs, the light source is also the carrier of the image. Light is what animates the image. That's what makes Vermeer's work so immersive and atmospheric, the quality of light in his paintings. And I think that's an adequate statement. It's true.
Very true,
Yeah.
because when light is not correct, you can photograph, in my case, whatever you want.
Yeah.
But if the light is no good, it looks like shit.
Yeah.
So every idea is then
Yeah.
worthless.
Yeah.
So the light is very important. You get an idea, and then next to the idea, you get the technique. And the technique starts with light.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I can start thinking about other details. And you see it also in the works of Steichen. That's here with the moonlight photography. I think the most important of that is where the light is coming from and what it is creating as an atmosphere in all the images,
I can totally relate to that. It's even true for curating a show, because the lighting is so important. I mean, you can make a beautiful hanging, but if the light isn't really good, it doesn't work. It really helps to create. I hope I think our colleagues did a really good job in getting the lighting just right, because it really is essential to create this atmosphere. Yeah.
What I just said before we started, that lamp is the most important. If that lamp hurts, you look beautiful.
So, yeah.
If you ever get a lighter that's painful, then you look good.
It blends out the inequality. Okay. Well, another thing I wanted to ask specifically you is because in previous interviews that I read, you mentioned the bromide prints.
Silver bromide.
Bromide prints. And that's, of course, something also really important in Steichen's work. Could you relate a little bit on your interest for this technique?
Yeah, when I started out photography, as I told you, I was a student in the School of Journalism, but I was very bad in writing, but I was a teacher of photography. And he waved to me, he said, you have to come to my class, I will teach you photography. And the big part at that time of photography was developing the films and printing the selection of your negatives in the darkroom, and that for me started, let's say, the love for photography, and then you had two papers, like press photographers printed on PE, that was a plastic coated paper, which dried very quickly, but had also a kind of, let's say, so it's good for press, because you need to work quickly. But it has also kind of a lack of intimacy. It's a lack of atmosphere. And the silver bromide is a real paper, so it gets really weak. Because it goes into the developing, and then you stop it, and then you fix it. Then you have to rinse it for an hour, and then you have to dry it, and then it dries, and it goes. You know what happens with paper when you make it wet and it dries, so you have to flatten it. But all those steps, and then you have to be very precise in your printing. They can add to, let's say, the emotion of a photograph. You see that here with the prints of Steichen, even that they are not printed as a real vintage, but they're very old printed, that they look, they have a kind of quality that adds to the, if you look at the flower, That is a beautiful print, you know.
Yeah.
And that adds to the emotion of the artwork, which in photography you don't have that many possibilities to create with the material an emotion. Like a painter, you know, you have the canvas, you have the thickness of the paint, the gloss or the matte, you know. So we have matte, we have gloss, we have 3 kind of papers nowadays, and that is where you have to work with.
Yeah.
But if you go back to the classical printing, then yeah, you immediately get a kind of emotion added to it. It's kind of brownish.
Well, you mentioned before that also you really value the artisanal aspects of it,
Yeah.
the really making something with your hands.
And for you as a maker, because all the time you are in the darkroom and you're looking at this paper, you know, then you see your image and you see, oh, that's a mistake, and there I did do something wrong, and you know, so because you can get into the work very intensely, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, because by heart, I really feel a photographer, you know, and I love. That's also what I think is interesting in this exhibition is that it's not only the black and white or the background of Hans Op de Beeck, which I regard very highly, you know, and the content and so, but that's also to do with very much with the craftsmanship of the 3 people exhibiting.
Absolutely.
For me, it is important when I see craftsmanship. Then, I can't get more interested in the artist.
I think in general, people also tend to can more easily relate to this aspect of craftsmanship. It's something which is technically really well done, or
And I think maybe in this time, you know, I think each day, 1 million good pictures are made on Instagram and so on, you know, all worldwide.
Yeah, yeah.
But then it comes to all the little aspects next to it, you know, because what is beauty? Yeah. What is interesting? What is, you know, what do you want to say? And then how do you express it? And how big is your size? Or how's the light? How's the framing? How's everything? So it comes far more to little details also from the print.
To elevate it to an artwork.
To make it something that's from
personal,
you.
From
you know?
Yes, yeah. Well, that's a very nice bridge, something that is for you, something characteristic and belongs to your nature, to the theme of nature in general, which is an important aspect, I think, of all 3 the oeuvres that are combined in this exhibition, especially the power of nature, the overwhelming power of nature that I guess in the past 2-3 years, also because of COVID and the floods that happened and climate change have been very much present in our daily lives. And I know that for this particular series, Im Wald, that one of the ideas you had behind this series was how man impacts his natural environment, that we have the urge to do something with nature and cannot be content anymore with just enjoying and looking at it. Isn't that right?
Yes, I always irritate me people that want to go up the mountain, you know, they want to go climbing the, how do you call that biggest mountain in the world? The Kilimanjaro, Mount Everest, you know. Why don't you just look at the mountain, you know? Why do you want to ski down from that mountain, you know? Or just don't touch anything, you know, or leave animals where they are. But for me, the biggest motivation was that we are in conflict with nature, what is so stupid of the human beings. We are, of course, with 8 billion people nowadays, and when I was young, there were 3.4 billion, so it's quite going very quickly now. But we also want to shape nature, you know, but nature has no emotion, it's indifferent. I found that out for myself there in Germany, like with the enormous amount of fog that came towards us. Within 10 minutes, the world was changed. It doesn't give a shit about you, you know? That tree, you know, one of the big tree, it made me emotional. But that tree doesn't have any emotion towards me. It's just a tree. It doesn't even think. It's there, you know, and it only thinks, if it thinks, go away, you know, I'm standing here,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
eating.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And we do everything with emotion, and we fight against nature, and we should, especially also in the Netherlands. I'm always irritated, you know, they plant a tree and then they chop it off after 10 years because there has to be another tree, you know. So there's no anymore, no tree in the whole Netherlands that was original there, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then I think, oh, what are we doing? You know, where are we going? And on the other hand, I'm afraid for nature as well. You know, because when you're on your own, surrounded by it, and there's no asphalt, with a car parked somewhere.
Or the Wi-Fi, or
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
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 the Wi-Fi,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
give a
yeah,
shit
yeah,
about it. Oh, I use the word shit.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
No, but when we were there, and when I was, you know, for the idea, you know, I was for the Kunsthalle,
Yeah, yeah,
the German in Munich,
yeah.
invited for an exhibition, and Roger Dieder, he asked me to make a project, the director, and then he suggested something to do with Ludwig II, the king, the last king of
Yeah.
Bavarian, and then we went up to one of the Jachthütte of Ludwig. But I was really, I didn't want to touch Ludwig II because it's too big as a
Yeah.
subject.
Yeah, yeah.
And then driving there, the nature was so overwhelming
I see.
for me that that gave me that idea, and
Yeah.
especially also the indifference, you know, and that we think it's beautiful, but the tree doesn't think, oh, I'm beautiful, you know, it doesn't stand in front of the tree, mirror. So, nou ja.
That's an interesting. Well, it's interesting that Hans had a somewhat different approach to this dealing with this specific topic. I'm just going to read out his answer to this question. Um, he says, I don't see my work as a place where I should focus on what's happening in the world today. Implicitly, it's always there, digested through the image making, but it can flatten possible readings of the work. I also don't want to preach, who am I to patronize people, you know. What I like about Erwin's work is that it's a reflection of us as humans, our smallness in the face of time, history, nature, the sublime, and there's definitely a common ground there. He feels with this concentration on every last detail, the crafting of the image. So for him, it's more. It's present, but it's more implicitly present. But I think it's then perhaps moving on to the next subjects that's connected to this. When you look at your work and to at the work of Hans, at first glance it has a high degree of realism, but if you look closely, it doesn't, and it's you have the feeling that there is some story there, or something will happen or is going on that is not clear exactly what it is, but you as a viewer are invited to
start your own
start
story.
your own story, right?
I think that connects Hans and me as well.
Yeah.
That we invite, that I don't know what I'm doing, you know. I just have to, let's say, when I have an idea.
That's very healthy.
I have that idea, and then I don't think about it really deep, you know. I just, and then when you start to work, I work with, let's say, talents, you know.
Yeah.
It's not models, it's actors.
Yeah, yeah.
And not really actors, just can be anybody, you know, but that fits in the idea. And then you have to, what I think is so interesting is motoriek, we said in, how do you say, in the body language.
Body language, right.
You know, and that is so interesting, you know, because human beings, we can read each other's body language. When you're in a restaurant and somebody has a quarrel with his wife or something like that, you smell it, you see it, you know. How comes? Because of the shoulders or the nose or the way they do like that, you know, and you know, and I see that in Op de Beeck as well, you know, when the boy and the girl on the cliff, you know, you know there is something going on, and they're holding
Absolutely.
the hands, but either splitting up or is something. You know there's something uncomfortable happening, and that is what I try to do in my photography as well. If you put somebody close to somebody else, there can be a different relationship than if you put them, let's say, only 50 centimeters wider from each other. When
Yeah.
somebody's shoulder is lower or higher, or the face is like this or like that or like that,
It tells a
it's
different
a
story.
totally different story. And when you do that, and then you say, you invite your viewer or your the visitor, step into my world, and I give you the hand, but as soon as you're in, I leave you on your own. You have to make it yourself, the story, because then, then there starts a dialogue, you know, and I
Absolutely.
think that is the most interesting that can happen with your work, that people start to make their own stories.
And also what keeps a work interesting over time. If you're a collector, if you or a regular visitor to a museum which has
Yeah.
your work or the work
But
of
that's
Hans.
not only for our work, you know, like one of the inspirations for my involved was also the romantic paintings of the 19th century,
Yes.
which were made a lot in Germany, and which I for a long time did not understand, because educated with the Dutch painterly world, you know, like the portraits of, there's more portraiture,
Yeah, yeah.
portraiture of now Rembrandt, Vermeer.
And the landscapes are like Van Ruysdael, they're all flat.
Yeah, Van Huizen, yeah.
Yeah.
And also human beings in it.
Yeah.
But if you look at that 19th century, you know, then you also have this language between the humans opposite nature, or more one with nature, you know, or nietig, we say.
Tiny.
Tiny,
Yeah.
or small in character.
So small and insignificant,
Yeah.
as opposed to like Caspar David Friedrich,
Yeah.
for instance, in the overwhelming power of nature.
And I never understood that till I was traveling there in the south of Germany and seeing that. And then I understood. And then I thought, now I can do something, because paintings are for me often an inspiration. Actually, to be honest, more nowadays than photography,
I see. Yeah.
because I feel no competition
Yeah.
to do it better.
No, but it's true that also in some works in the exhibition you really have the feeling that this inspiration of let's say 19th century landscape painting is actually there, huh?
Yeah.
And that's let me just see what Hans says about this this subject on working with presenting stories and playing on the imagination of people. Hans says, I think we both work in a very narrative way. The term I often use to describe it is visual fictions. We both have fictitious components in our works. Erwin stages his photographs and I produce paintings and sculptures, but it's an evocation rather than a simulation of reality.
Yeah.
And we both offer the possible beginning of a story and give the viewer a point of departure, so to speak. But for my part, Hans says, I want to be the companion of the spectator, question with the spectator, and in a sense, be the very first spectator of my own work. So I know, in fact, that he told this that he the watercolors that we show in the exhibition, it's actually the first time in a large museum presentation that these watercolors are presented. They have been shown in galleries before, but not as one of the main subjects of a museum exhibition. He worked on this series for about 10 years, and
Wow.
he starts, when he does, it's sort of a night vision of a night processing what he saw on walks during the night. And when he makes them, he starts at, say, 8 o'clock in the evening, and he works throughout the night until like 8 in the morning, because during the day there's a really busy workshop where sculptures are made, where there are like 8 to 9 people working, and there's telephones and there are meetings, but he needs this environment also, and all these people to create the sculptures. But he is, of course, the only one who can create the watercolors.
Yeah.
His team is of no use then. How valuable they are also, and so it's a solitary thing, and so he's on his knees and he's painting away until it's finished in the morning, and then he's the first spectator of his own work.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, great.
yeah.
The funny thing is, his manager told me, and the
Yeah,
galleryist,
yeah.
that he starts with the face. And then you see the face in the watercolors that are 3 meters big, and the face is only this.
Yeah.
And if that's not good, then the whole watercolor is no good.
Yeah.
And the same I have, when the photograph, you make the photograph, when the expression in the eye, when somebody's, you have this at nature, and this is the eye, and the face, then when the expression in the eye is no good, then the whole photograph is no good. It starts with the face, the emotion. What is he or she thinking? I don't know exactly what it is, that I never know, but I know if it's good what they're thinking, if they are the person that they are in your imagination, because it are not real. It is not a real situation. It's a translation of the world as I see around me. And then they go filter in your head. You get an idea that's also along the way shaped by coincidences, but then the person or the persons in the picture have to be the imaginary person you create,
Well, as you mentioned also that in your photographs, the photographs that you made for Imwald, you really wanted a specific moment to press the button so to very early in the morning or
early in the morning or late at night. But then the sun is gone.
and
It
not,
doesn't have to do with
and
emotion.
no, but not I wanted it not manipulate anything, but using the real moments and the beauty of this specific instance when there's a bit of fog, there's a bit of light, there's a coincidence, like the photo you made of the little boy on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Maybe you can tell.
That was we were photographing. It's also in the room. The small one where that's a self-portrait, a little bit Caspar David Friedrich. But then I'm watching. I'm facing this stone wall. But during the making, the fog came, and it was still a little thin. And then one of my people, she came to me and said, "Erwin, look around." And the boy, he was still waiting because we had to make 2 in one day.
Okay, 2 photographs.
It's always budget driven.
Yeah.
So I planned in my head, I had this beautiful amount of trees, on a rock formation. So, that's nice with the boy. And then I turned around, and there were no trees, nearly no trees anymore.
Everything was gone.
Everything was gone, everything. And then we took the boy, bam!
And then made the photograph.
Not like that, but it was within 10 minutes. Everything we had to make.
Wow. Yeah.
But he was fantastic. In that picture, you can see he is curious. And he's looking, world, I'm coming, here I am, That is so fantastic in that. And it's also a reference to, I don't know the name of the painter, but there's a painting in the Alte Pinakothek in Munich, and it's called Bauernbube.
Okay.
And then it's on Kugel or so.
But it's a summary image.
Yeah, it's very summary, but that boy is also, looking, okay.
Yeah.
Where's the party? Where's the world? I'm here, world.
Yeah.
And that I wanted to express with my with my boy, let's say. So within 10 minutes we had it. That is with children. That age, it's fantastic to work. I did do that in Berlin as well.
Yeah.
The 8 till 12, they are so grown up and so intelligent nowadays.
We are very lucky to have. Exactly such a photograph of by you in our collection of a boy in the Freemasons Lodge.
Oh
in Berlin.
He was a star.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. That well, underlines how important
The decisive
the
moment,
decisive moment is.
which
Yeah,
most of the time people say, oh, that's only in documentary photography or in journalistic photography.
yeah,
But the decisive moment, which was invented by a very famous French
yeah, yeah,
photographer, of which the name I forget.
yeah.
But in studio or in stage
De
photography.
Grey. Oh,
Huh?
De Grey? Nee.
Nee,
No,
niet Le Gray. Nee, die
okay.
andere, die documentaire fotograaf.
Cartier-Bresson.
Cartier-Bresson, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I always forget that his
Yeah. Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
So Henri Cartier-Bresson, he
Ouais.
said a decisive moment, but many people think that's not in stage photography or not in studio photography. But I'm always waiting for that. That is where you wait for, because you can have this fabulous idea and blah 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 and all the models and whatever, set building, but then it has to happen,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that is only the persons that have to do it
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
translate your idea into a concrete image.
But that's,
Are the talents.
I think that's the joy of being an artist, that you can do that. Huh? I know that well, Hans told us that he works in exactly the same way when he starts working on his watercolor paintings. That it's about getting into a certain mood, concentrating on this work, and getting into a flow, and then you can paint all night, and then end up with something beautiful or not. You throw it away, you try it again. I mean, with watercolor is of course very, very difficult, because the more
Very
you
difficult.
paint, the more you risk destroying the
ruin,
light.
yeah.
Huh? So you have to stop at the right moment, just as you have to press at the right moment.
Yeah, but photography is concerned to that, watercoloring.
Yeah, yeah.
It's easy peasy.
It's well, it still requires a lot of.
I can
keen
romanticize,
eyes.
I can
Yeah,
make it
yeah.
more difficult than
Yeah.
it is, but photography is, in a way, it's highly overrated,
Yeah,
which is good for me.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So we keep it among friends.
Yeah, yeah. But still, very interesting as an art form. And then we come back to.
It is my art form. I cannot express in a different way.
That's right. Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it belongs to really from that moment
Yeah.
in the School of Journalism, when he gave me that camera, which was a Nikon FM 2, and it was still heavy and it was cold. The metal was cold, and then
Yeah.
clock.
Yeah.
It was in my hand, it was tick, and
Yeah.
it was
It was there.
was there. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
love.
Well, I sometimes wonder how that would have been for Steichen, when he was standing on the border of this lake and waiting for this moon to sink in the water and the reflection of the trees.
I'm curious what camera he made it with.
Maybe Mr. Paul for Gilles.
Oh, no.
That,
Not a big one.
probably
A
a big
plate
huh?
camera, I
Yeah.
think. Plates? Plate, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but that is far more, like nowadays I work most of the time with a Hasselblad,
Yeah.
which is also a little limited, and especially still
Still
when there was film, then you only had 12 negatives. With a small film,
Yeah.
you had 36.
Uh-huh.
Nowadays you can do,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that takes a lot away of the joy. So
Yeah.
what I do is most of the time you take about 5, 10, and then you say, okay, relax. A little bit around, maximum around the 12.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm used to with the Hasselblad.
Yeah, yeah.
But with when you use the plates, you have to make every time you make the decision. Because you have to take out the plates,
Yeah, yeah.
put it in, take it out, the whole thing, turn it around, go back. So then you have only 2 negatives.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so you have to really be very clever.
yeah, yeah. Talking about that, what do you think Steichen has to offer contemporary artists and contemporary viewers? Can you give me some opinion?
I can give you opinion, but
yeah.
if it's worth anything.
Sure, it is.
Now, what I can say, I said to you in all the conversations,
Yeah.
I cannot say I'm really sorry, but that Steichen was on top of my head all my life. No. But when I started out photography, I was really intrigued by stage photography. That's
Yeah.
and also and especially also the old masters. You know, so there was Steichen, there was Erwin Priem, and especially also I think he's the school of Horst P. Horst. You know, and that kind of photography, the glamorize and the use of the light. The softness of the black and white, you know, the technique, highly high-end technique. And that was for me inspirational, you know, how to create a dream world, you know, and that, and I think many times I say that to my interns, you know, don't look at the photography of nowadays. You know, everybody wants to become, of course, a famous fashion photographer, and then many times you see they look at the photographers of now. But what you better can do is look at the dead photographers, you know, because then you can steal,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, and that, but that gives a lot of
A
inspiration.
source of inspiration, of course.
And
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
my best friends, Hans Vermaane, is a choreographer. He was related, I was very good friends with Robert Mapplethorpe, which I really liked. And I see also, if you look at Mapplethorpe's work, you see an absolute connection with this, let's say, the group of Steichen. You know, that's very beautiful, and then especially also George Platt lines.
Yeah.
And when I saw then George Platt lines, you know, because I saw Mapplethorpe, which was then very hot in the 80s, and then I said, oh, but now I see where he has it from, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that, but totally his own translation.
Yeah.
And I think when you start with looking at the old masters and then take them with you in your development, and you can not imitate, but you can. I did do that with Plaid Lines. There was one picture that intrigued me so much, and then Vermaane, he said to me, well, remake it.
Yeah.
And see what is the magic of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And you remake it, and a totally different is,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, of
yeah.
course there's a connection,
Yeah.
but something totally different
Yeah.
comes. So I think, why don't you know that you have the Mona Lisa of Steichen is the woman with the veil. Now remake it
Yeah.
and see what you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
and that's a good starting point.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's interesting as we try to show in the exhibition that sometimes artists work on a specific theme at the same time without knowing this from each other,
Yeah.
and they take something out of the air and create something in their very own language. And now, when it's hanging in the museum, you say, well, it could be the design for the photo, or the photo could be the design for the aquarelle. But it's coincidence. But then again, it's not.
But we need also people like you know, to make those connections. Because when you came with, but when he came with the idea, I was like, Steichen and me, you know, and then you see it, and then you say, oh, but that has influenced me throughout the years, and also the photographs I never knew of.
Yeah.
The night, the night
Scene.
the night scene in the woods.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, it connects Hans, Erwin, Steichen, and that makes the exhibition.
Yeah,
You know? So, in that sense,
It's
compliment to you.
Well, thank you. No, it's nice to see the three of you talking in this room next door that we will see in an hour or so, and it's a visual journey that I think I hope a lot of people will find very interesting and inspirational. And again, thank you very much for collaborating with us in this project. I should not forget to mention that today was also the day that we were able to present to the press a big collection catalog of over 500 pages, a work that has been in the making for a long time, and it's a beautiful publication with all the photographs of Steichen in the MNHA's holdings together, and well researched, well documented, well illustrated for the first time. So that's a big step forward in the appreciation and possible also the presenting and making available to a wider audience Steichen's work as a source of inspiration.
A rebirth.
A rebirth, perhaps so.
A renaissance.
So the subtitle to this exhibition, inspired by Steichen, perhaps could also be an interesting idea or start for a series of exhibitions every so few years of contemporary artists whose subject or themes or technique or the atmosphere or of her or his work is has certain similarities to that of Steichen, and through their eyes looking at the qualities of Steichen work with fresh eyes, as we try to do in this exhibition. Perhaps on that note, if there is anything you want to add or want to share with with the people
enough,
here,
I think.
I want to thank you very much.
Thank you too.
And I'm thanking Anne also for the quote from Hans Op de Beeck, and Hans and Erwin will, of course, I hope it will be possible for you to come back to us next year, because as a complement to the current large exhibition, there will be a guest-curated presentation of 20 photographs of Steichen from the MNHA holdings that Erwin and Hans have agreed to select, and that exhibition will open the 7th of March 2023. On that occasion, we will also present another publication on the exhibition itself, and there will be another opportunity, perhaps finally for you two to meet, because we keep...
or I'm ill or he's ill.
Yeah. So
we keep avoiding each other.
So the funny
Only
thing
digital.
is... That's right, yeah. The funny thing is that both Erwin and Hans are... among other gallerists with Ron Mandos in Amsterdam.
Which was also
a coincidence. And but they had never met.
No.
So Luxembourg is really the first place
where we should meet.
We will bringing them together,
yeah.
and I can assure you that we will bring you together. So
Luxembourg is the place to be.
That's right. Yeah. So it will happen next year. So we have something to look forward to. Next year.
Yeah.
So that no, again, thank you very much, and thank you all for participating, and looking forward to greeting you in person, shaking hands, and celebrating the start of this exhibition later this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dank u wel.
Nou, dank u wel.
Ja.